My goodness, guys. Welcome back to This is Dundermoose. We got a hot show tonight. I'm not going to do a huge intro because we got a lot to talk about and I want to get into it. But, I want to talk about some ground rules first. Um, this is going to be a traditional after action report where we get the story of who were the characters and what was involved. But this is also going to be, we're gonna teach, we're gonna learn the lessons learned that these guys did in Drakonheim. So I've got some questions that are about how to be a player in a Bro SR style game, how to be a DM, how to transition from one thing to another. And instead of just doing all of it up front and then switching to the other or vice versa, I'm going to pepper. We're going to go back and forth. So if you're interested in the story, stick around to the end. You'll have to stick around to get all of it. If you're interested in the lessons learned, stick around to the end. We'll have a little something for both of y'all. And with that being said, let's get into it. Welcome, Serious DM, your second time on the channel. We got quite the game here. Starts off as 5th edition and regular, right? With your friends?
Yeah. So Drakonheim was like the original idea was we're gonna have a game where everybody could be a 20th level wizard if they want.
All right.
And I kind of figured everybody would want to do that, but a lot of people ended up doing a lot of other things and it just got kind of crazy. But it ended up being, I guess you could call it a stress test of 5e.
Okay. I like that.
It far exceeded 5e's capacity to handle what we were trying to do pretty
So now,
quick.
when you say 5e, like what research are we just talking about? The 3 basic books plus
Yeah.
Xanathars, or did you like do everything?
Yeah, it was just the PHP, Monster Manual, DMG, and then Xanathars, and a little bit of Tasha's TCE,
Okay.
which I regretted later.
I kind
Um,
of felt like Tasha's where it jumped the shark, honestly, if I'm being honest.
you're not wrong. You're not
Okay.
wrong. I really there's like one or two things in Tasha's that I like, and then the rest is just not for me, I guess. But
All right.
so we were playing with all the game modes enabled, all the clubhouse game modes. So everybody's familiar with questing. But then we had domain play and wargaming and Bronstein, with PvP. So,
All
and
right.
that's all like super crucial, like to what happened.
So it didn't. It's not like you started a regular 5e. Like you didn't do Lost Mines of Fandelver and then
Oh
started
no,
layering this stuff. And you're like from the get go, you're like, we're
no,
gonna bring all of the tools.
that's right. And actually, yeah. Now that I remember, it's just been so long. We actually started it as a Godstein in the pattern of that. Let's see, Alchemic Raker way back when just threw out the concept
Yep.
of
And then
starting a
Harmony Ginger
campaign.
ran with it. Yep.
Yeah, wherever, and then Harmony Ginger ran with it, and then I decided why not. And yeah, we started with actually creating the world where the players were gods, and yeah, that part. Well, anyway, I'll maybe talk about that later. It had
Okay.
mixed results.
Alrighty. So you and you started. Was it a face to face group or an online or a mix?
It was online based on some people like it. There's a lot of friends that I started with that I
Mm-hmm.
knew face to face, and then they kind of moved away. But but most of the part, like for the most part, yeah, it was online. It was just
Okay. Because I don't know. I think of this kind of as a rite of passage for BroSR DMs, where you've got the group guys you play with. At least for me, I got super excited about the concepts that I was learning about in this group of roustabouts, these ne'er do wells, the BroSR, and I was so excited about how those kind of game, the potential. And then when I started trying to introduce it, I just feel like it's a rite of passage. You're going to lose some, and then you're going to have to go looking for new ones. And the ones you attract are going to be there for it. But I just feel like there's always at least one, if not crash out, like there's always a few like just walking away moments. Is that what you experienced with this campaign?
You could say that. And my friends, they stuck with it. Friends of friends, not so much. So to get into the Godstein a little bit, there was an original group of maybe 10, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody like picked they all created their own gods, and there were really some gods were good. Some were good. And
Man, that was a pregnant pause if ever I heard one.
and some were kind of furries or something. I don't know. But we got through that phase, and then we got through the actual. We started, after everybody was a god. Then the idea was, okay, you're gonna be like a high level PC, or you could be like a dragon or something, and you're gonna pick a spot on the map, and you're gonna just go. You're gonna see what's around. You're gonna bump into whatever's nearby, and you're just gonna play. And some people understood that pretty quick, and they started making moves very quickly. And others were just they didn't. It was just like not their scene. I don't know. Like they rolled out.
I feel like if you're used to conventional play and the DM is like, here's the world, what do you want to do? There's some people that like the change in pressure there, they'll get nosebleeds if they don't just flat out pass out, right? Because they're like, their internal set is, DM wrote me a story. I've got to ask the right questions to uncover the breadcrumbs to get started on the and if you say you can do absolutely anything, they're like, I don't know what I want to do. I thought you were going to be driving.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? So do you think that's part of it, or do you think there was something else at work here? I mean, because you're talking about a Godstein and like very powerful characters. So
yeah, I think some of it was that, but then some of it was just it was PvP, man. Like you could just you could do whatever you can do. Whatever your character can do, you can do. And some people just, I don't know, didn't like that. There was this one, so it kind of reminds me of how I figured out 5e is really just built for like one thing.
yeah.
And if you try to exceed that, or if you try to fight that, then you're going to have a bad time. And it assumes combat. It assumes conflict. And one of the players right off the bat wanted to be like a crafter, like the guy you go to whenever you need something made.
Hephaestus.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like basically they wanted like a vendor simulation is what they were going for.
Okay.
And I wanted to say that like the game could accept that, but it just didn't work out. Like it was I remember, like, first of all, 5e doesn't reward really anything. Like you don't get XP for anything besides killing stuff. By the rules, you technically can get XP from other things, but those are not spelled out. Those ways are left totally up to the DM. So by the rules, it's just killing stuff. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So no other players really had any incentive to go talk to this crafter, because I mean, what are they going to do? There's no conflict there. And so I had to kind of push people towards this person. And even then, like the player just like, okay, so the situation was, so one player was making a vault to hold the campaign MacGuffin,
Okay.
called the Divine Seam. It's this powerful artifact, and this a different player was anticipating getting it at some point, and then they needed a vault, so they contracted another player to create this vault. Okay, so then it was suggested that the crafter or the vault maker go work with the crafter to enhance the vault.
Okay.
And the crafter pretty much immediately just like said, no, I'm never going to do that because the vault maker's too shady. You know, I'm like, my character would never do that. And I'm like,
Ah,
anyway,
that could lead to some fun, and I'd
yeah,
rather just spreadsheet.
exactly. Something like that. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, that player didn't stick around. I was
The
not.
vault player or the
Oh,
scene
the
player?
crafter did not stick
Okay.
around.
Whopper Wizard in the chat asks, what crafting rules were used?
Um, at the time, I was really trying to use. Well, I always try to go like by the book as much as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and I was trying to use Xanathar's Guide to Everything because there's downtime rules in that for crafting.
Yeah.
But we never really like got there because, like I said, the crafter just bounced. Like it was.
All right. So, were anybody on the screen? Were you any of you playing with him at this moment, or are all of us new? Okay, Kuro was there from the
Yeah.
get go.
I was there from the very beginning. One of the original players played through the
Okay,
whole Godstein. I was also the character who was contracted to build the vault.
okay. So you're the vault
So,
guy.
mhm.
When you signed on for this, did you know that Sirius was going to be adding a bunch of extra stuff to 5e, or did you just think, oh, I'm just going to play 5e with my bro?
No, I knew vaguely everything. I would say.
Okay.
We're in pretty close chats, like behind the scenes with everything. And so while I didn't know everything that he's doing as the DM, I have a vague picture of like the direction he wanted the game to be.
Right on.
But yeah, at this point, this was, I think, the very first like player interaction, at least that I saw in the game, was being contracted to build this vault, meeting this crafter guy, and yeah, just like Sirius said, I think I requested some pieces for him to build for the vault, and then I just never heard anything back.
Okay. So I guess my question is for you then, and anybody else. Barros, were you fully broified when you joined the game, or were you kind of figuring it out as well?
So, so I've been following you guys on YouTube for a long time. You guys were
Okay.
actually the people that convinced me to join X because I was like, I got to find the information
I
where I
am
can
so
find.
sorry.
It's all good. It's actually my preferred social media platform now. As like as pathetic as that sounds.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
but yeah. So I was stuck in the hospital for a month with
Oh
my
man.
with my daughter. She just turned 1, beautiful girl, absolutely wonderful. Got some issues, and we were stuck in the hospital for a month with her, and so I found myself with quite a bit of free time because
Mm,
I'm normally stay at home dad, and so while I've been following you guys from afar, and just like I never got the opportunity to just like insert myself while I've been handling my son. I found myself with all this free time because I'm here at the hospital doing
yeah.
nothing but sitting around while my wife's taking care of the son at home because she doesn't do well in the hospital. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start posting on X again. I'm going to start posting on X. I'm going to start a Substack. I'm going to start posting on YouTube. The YouTube thing hasn't really worked out, but the X thing, I just posted constantly on that
Hmm.
for like a week, just trying to get someone to notice me. And unfortunately for Sirius, he was the one that noticed me. So so he asked me to join up, and I was like, yes, all right, now I can finally see how this all works out.
All right. So
Yeah.
you hadn't experienced it for yourself, but you were open to it. It wasn't
Mhm.
foisted upon you.
Oh yeah.
And then I think I know the answer for Rule of Thule and Angry Steak, but I'll let you guys go ahead and tell like what was your exposure to this style of play before going into it. I'll have Rule go first and then Angry.
For me, it was very comfortable. I've done this before. I've thought about it a lot. I've written a lot about it, and I've tried to have very productive like conversations and interactions with people that are at, that are the very best at it. So it was all pretty. It made sense to me. I mean, when Sirius invited me, I wasn't surprised by anything. It all just
Okay.
was
Was that
comfortable.
part
Made
of the
sense.
pitch? Do you want to play BroSR style 5e?
Yeah, I mean, and because I understood it so easily, I think the way that he asked me was basically just like that. He said, "Hey, I'm doing a Bro SR campaign. You interested?" I was like, I already know what that means. I already know what it entails. So it all just made sense to me.
Okay. All right. Before I get to you, Angry Steak, I do have a super chat. Thanks, couple of adventures. Marinus, $5. Marinus says the sea elves were the best. They were once in a lifetime. That sounds like there's a deeper meaning there.
Real quick sidebar on the sea elves, which I think highlights the resiliency of the Broasar mindset. Is so Marinus actually started as a faction of sea elves. Like I asked him what he wanted to do, and he's like, "Yeah, sea elves," and I'm like, "All right, let's do it." And so he actually his faction found an underwater lair of this elder sea god. The other god was dead at the time, but the interest in the lair was that it was supposed to have a ton of treasure in it, but it was still very well guarded. And rather than roll out everything over Discord, in excruciating 5e detail with all that combat, he elected. This was his call. He put it all on one die roll. Just there's this one rule in Axe where you can see how you if you just off screen go and smash a dungeon. How do you do?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, so we rolled it, and he rolled very badly, really badly. And so after spending all this time, creating his faction and everything, they all just died.
It's like they all got swallowed by a dragon turtle in the same gulp.
And he wasn't salty about it.
Thanks for playing, Marinus.
Yeah.
Better luck next time.
He wasn't mad about it. He was just like, oh man. And he even put it was funny because oh god, what the name?
I can just picture the list of names he had for all his sea elves, and he's just crumpling it up and throwing it in.
Yeah. He modeled his main character after what's her name? Is it Sarah Brightman or something? Some singer. No, what is her name? Anyway, some singer. He had a meme name for it and everything. It was hilarious. And then it was totally anticlimactic. Just got crushed right out the gate. And then he wasn't salty though. He wasn't.
That's awesome. So he was a good example to the other players. You can just lose your whole faction in one toss of dice, and you don't have to be a baby about it. You can be like, nerds.
Yeah.
Alrighty. And then Angry Steak, your experiences heading into this. What was your experiences? Oh, wait, I got another one. Another $2. Thanks, Marinus. Sarah Bateman.
Bateman.
That's
what it looks like to me.
Thank you.
So I guess if we go all the way back, I guess it'd be about a year ago and some change. It was the Broser Diceless stuff. And then that was kind of my first, Ferrigno and that was the first thing. And funny enough, Noble Naga played out almost exactly the same as Ferrigno, except he technically won in so much as, I didn't get my head chopped off. But after that, I joined the Living Earth Gaming Club, represent Bros, and then everything has just kind of been what we've done in the club since then. There was what did you call that one? Sirius, do you remember the one where I was the knockoff? What was it? It was the MXC Most Extreme Challenge mixed with Labyrinth. Yeah, that was just giant meme. Was it the Gobstein?
No, it was Goblin D's-stein, I think.
Oh, that's right.
Goblin
Yeah.
D's-stein.
That's right. That was too stupid, too long of a name. Never gonna remember. Suffice it to say, that's kind of what introduced me to that. That kind of petered out or something, and then he hits me up a little bit later. He's like, "Hey, I'm starting this thing. You want to join up?" I'm like, Dude, I don't know jack about 5e. I haven't played it or read it in like 4 or 5 years now.
Mm.
But like, sure, I'm gonna go in, keep it simple, and over my little bits and bobs here and there, it's like I'm never the guy in front. I'm never the guy on top. It's just sort of I'm here to stir things up, and I made it my explicit goal. So prior to that,
Good roll.
during to the Goblin Diestein, I was like, I want to be the Kingmaker sort. Like, I'm gonna just throw in with whoever and see where this goes. I'm just gonna meme it up, have a fun with it. Screw it. This time, I was like, I gotta find somebody. I gotta prod them. I read a couple of the things. I'm like, okay, what's going on though? It's just kind of like me. No, screw that. We're gonna go in. We're gonna find some player to poke. We're gonna prod them until they are forced to prod back, and I'm going to have mission complete. Make the player do something. Stop
Right
being
on.
lazy. Stop worrying about it. And at the time, I was playing Neo and Neo 2. Those are effectively what would you call mission-based fighting games. And I'm like, okay, well, they're Sengoku era, and Nobunaga was like real cool little character. He's got the peacock and everything. Like, screw it. That's my theming. Noble Naga with the nobility concept. I'm in there. I'm ambition. Just give me something. I don't want to make a character. I don't want to deal with this crap. Just tell me I'll tell you what I want to do. You figure it out. And like he rode my ass about it the entire time. Well, this is how this works. This is how this works. I'm like, yeah. Just supply lines. Do they exist? No, doesn't matter. I'm burning that village. Pretend something bad's happening. I'm going to be like the Zerg. I'm just going to go through and build the creep. And if you don't come get me, I'm going to eat you at some point.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So I guess my question then is mainly for Barros and Kuro. When did this stop feeling like normal 5e campaign to you? Do you remember like the moment you realized there was a difference? Like, was it from the get-go, or like was there like a transition?
For me, I think it was as soon as the players in the beginning that were going to drop out, as soon as they dropped out, the like 5e mindset kind of died out with them. And then it started to feel like this isn't just a 5e game. This is now the game that I had imagined coming into it.
Cool.
So that, for me, that's what I'd say.
Nice. Yeah, for me, it was pretty immediate. I mean, like I said, I hadn't been playing a whole lot of anything really leading up to this because I've been so busy, caring for my son. In the last 5e campaign that I was in, the last conventional play style, just absolutely crashed and burned, destroyed a couple like 15-year friendships.
Oh man,
it was a mess. And so, but it was really interesting to me to do it this way because I started off with a faction leader. I didn't do the adventure stuff. I just went straight into the wargaming,
the high level stuff.
High level stuff. Rest in peace, Shazak. But yeah, no, I mean it was it was an incredible experience to start off with. Because just like Angry Steak was saying, about just going in and prodding stuff, that was exactly my mindset as well. Was to go in, just wreck shop and try to get somebody to start responding to me. I mean, that said, I the biggest lesson that I learned there came after Shazak died, like quite a bit after.
Okay.
Rereading my posts on my Substack about it and realizing how salty I actually got about it, because and I applaud you, Sirius, for having patience with me as I wring the soup from my clothes and try desperately to scrub the soup smell out of them, because it
those tomatoes get in there, don't they?
Man, they sure do. But yeah, I got very salty when Shazak eventually bit the dust, when I bit off more than I could chew. So the biggest thing that I found with this was the realignment of what I thought it took to be a good player.
Okay. Yeah, Kaido-san says clam chowder cleanse.
Nice. I love it.
So let me ask that then. That we can stay on the lessons learned section. From the players, having done this, what does it take to be a good player at the Braunstein level, at the session level? How do you have to change the way you interact with Dungeons and Dragons when you're adding all these other dimensions to it? When Sirius is throwing all these other play styles into the mix? How do you get good at that as a player? And don't worry, Sirius, your turn's coming.
I mean, the most important lesson that I've learned thus far is ego death.
Ooh, yeah.
Don't be self-involved. Don't be self-important. Like, yeah, assert yourself. Put yourself out there. Take risks. Take chances. Don't be a baby. Don't be a jerk. Don't throw a big stink when it all blows up in your face. Roll 3d6 down the line. Or method 3. Or whatever character generation method you guys are using. Just carry on. Just keep playing. It's a game. Have fun doing it. Have fun making mistakes and doing really bad tactics.
And I think that's what's behind that that rite of passage that everyone goes through is some players they'll hit a character death and naturally will feel that's not how this story is supposed to go. I had more plans for this character. There were things that were about to unfold that would have been so satisfying, and that was taken from me. We all hit that. And some people...
My bad.
All right, yeah. Go ahead. Let's get it off your chest, man.
I just found my opportunity there.
That was a good one. You got me.
Yeah. He probably has the most character kills. I think. Pretty sure. We can get to that later, but yeah.
All right. Well, I want to give Kuro a chance to answer too. That was a great answer, Barros Books. That the ego death. Some people can let go of what was supposed to happen according to their plans and say, well, if I'd played my cards differently, maybe I could have got that ending. I'm going to do better with the next one. And some people are like, nope, you wrecked it. I'm out. And I think that's what makes the difference between who can do well and enjoy this play style and who is like, it's just not for me. Kuro, what do you think about that? What was your lesson learned as you got used to this new style?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost the exact same thing for me. Okay. I was trying to think of how to say it, and what I was going to say is in conventional play, it's the normal, like, well, the DM's always right. And that's really easy in conventional play, because in conventional play, you're kind of on the same team as the DM, basically. Like, it doesn't really matter. But what was different here is that you're in a PvP situation with heavy fog of war. Yeah. And so it becomes very easy to feel like, well, this isn't fair. And so you have to really catch yourself and like check your reactions to things, and really, have trust in the DM that it is fair, despite whatever you may feel.
Yeah.
You trust that the DM, who has access to all the information openly, is making the call that you would agree with if you also had access to all the information.
Yeah, because I feel like 5e really camps on the fair thing, right? Like, even to the degree of like all of the combat, you're gonna like figure out the danger level of the creatures, and you're gonna match it to the average party, so that like
it's very much like if you created an encounter where your players had to run away, then you did a bad job at balancing that encounter.
You made me feel shame.
Yeah, and it's so stupid. Like, some of my favorite memories, like looking back on the D&D I've played over the years, is when I've gotten over my head against a creature that I didn't know enough about, and I had to run away or I was going to die.
Yeah.
And 5e has like culled that philosophy from the brains of all its players, and now like it is, like you said, it's a DM shame point. You didn't balance the thing right, and we had to run. But kind of circling back to the lessons. Having to really like check your reactions to things with the fog of war, and then being able to acknowledge your mistakes in things, because it's like you said earlier, like when you have these players you've invested, or these characters you've invested a lot of time into them, you have plans for them, and like you said, it kind of feels like something is being taken from you. And it's easy, you know, to get to the like the, I don't know how many of you guys play like League of Legends or other MOBAs, but there's a common thing where you're in like a team of 5, and so if you lose, it's never your fault.
Yeah.
It's, oh well, I lost because my team was bad. These guys made all these mistakes.
We got
I pinged that gank like 10 times. It's your
exactly,
fault.
Exactly.
You know,
and it's a similar thing. Yeah. And it's a similar thing here. Like you have all these things that you can blame the loss on. You know, that the DM was unfair. The enemy player is not following the same rules that I'm following, whatever. Mm-hmm. But you have to look at like, okay, well, what did I do that caused my own death? Because assuming that, you know, these are people that I want to play with, that means they're playing by the same rules. Everything is fair. The DM, I trust him to make the right calls. That means if I died, it's because I made a mistake. And so I really don't have even a right to be like angry in a way that I'm like putting it on somebody else. I can be upset at myself, like, oh dang, like I can't believe I made that mistake. But like it's not a scenario where it's fair for me to burden the DM or anyone else with that feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was a very wordy way to say ego death.
That's a wordy way to say you've been socialized. Welcome to the club.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking of. It sounds, I mean, correct me if I'm taking it too far here, but it sounds like growing up.
Yeah.
Right? Like children are always complaining about what's fair or not. Thanks for the dollar, my ear trumpet. Appreciate the support. And the comment right above that, movie guy John says, if you flee combat in 5e, you get nothing. So you may as well go down swinging for that sweet XP. And if you're not screaming run away like the Monty Pythons every now and then, you're not playing real D&D. Right? So
and I think it's a really interesting comment as well, because I found in Drakonheim, information was like the key factor to winning or losing. And so running away, well, you didn't get experience, but you got information so that next time you can win. And in a normal 5e game where it's like, oh, good job, you beat the NPC monster, like that's meaningless.
Yeah.
But this is a PvP environment. And so you winning one encounter means somebody else lost.
Yeah.
And so every encounter is a big deal. You running away to then get the victory the next time is a very big deal here.
And classic heroism too. You know, the villain runs away or the hero gets away, wounded, comes back, I'll overcome you. Like that's foundational in myth and stories, and on it goes.
Yeah.
So,
like even in the first Terminator movie, right? Like they'd have a fight, they'd get away for a little bit, they'd lick their wounds and talk about their past, and then that would set up the next fight, right?
Yeah. And I think a really good example in game was me and Angry's first and second encounter in the game, which I would love to hear that from Angry's perspective, because I've never seen the other side of it. If you have anything interesting about that, Angry?
I guess it depends. Going back to the initial bit, something I guess this is probably a little deeper than it needs to be, but in the end of the day, you know, we talk this stuff up, but the foundation is it's practice, it's learning. And at least in my, we'll say, youth, there's this fear of failure that gets instilled in us, and it's really hard to break away from that. You play a video game, you fail, you just load it up again, retry, whatever the case is. You don't really get that in the tabletop. You're kind of committed. You don't necessarily get redos or any of that. And then people, of course, people are always going to get invested. That's just kind of how it goes. But you end up paralyzed by that fear, right? And that, I think, leads to a lot of the issues you see, whether you want to call it conventional or not. It's just kind of how people have been. And I think why we have an easier time teaching people who are unfamiliar with the hobby or newer to the hobby. Like, I've had people come in with 1-to-1 time, for example, and just like eat it up, and they just pow. And I'm like, what's going on? Okay, let's go. But you have to be willing to just let it go. You need a group that you can trust. You need to be able to effectively fail. Again, I guess saying it's like children. You want to guide them, you want to teach them, but they still need to learn for themselves, and they need to be in a place that they can trust, right? I don't want to go any deeper than that, because then we get into waifu time. Well, we could talk about catfishing a different time, but nonetheless, yeah.
Okay.
As for what you were saying, Kuro, I don't really know what you're asking, I guess, because like from my end, I don't know jack about 5e anymore, let alone high level stuff. So my perspective is just like, here's the theming, here's the narrative. I'm going to lean into that, and we'll figure out the mechanics as we go. Like round 1 was hilarious, just because it's like, yeah, so basically you're in this giant box, and if you attempt to leave it, you got to make all these saves. And I'm like, buddy, who do you think you're talking to? I'm going to go, and bam, it sure as shit, we got through it. And so like that was the big initial thing, and then I tried to blow them up with my cannons. And so that was like neutral end, lots of intel gathering just through that experience. Second time, I don't even know the details. It was just like, Darius is like, hey, so I ran this by, he gave me this whole thing. If you've ever played a card game, especially like top level stuff where you don't even get a turn to play, it was like that. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. So Tomodachi, Seppuku, I made the ring, let's go. And then that leads into the story time. So
Okay.
I feel like there's a lot that needs to be explained there. But I wanted to tie a comment back in the comments from Anonymous, where he says, stop trying to make perfect plans, lesson number 1. And I think that's so important. So in the example that Kuro was asking Angry about, is so the setup there was, like Angry was saying, he was like this rampaging demon lord, Nobunaga, and he was just running amok in the countryside, just burning villages and stomping all these troops and everything. And and then Kuro was another character who was trying to defend his homeland, I guess, but Nobunaga hadn't quite gotten there yet. So he was preemptively going to fight Nobunaga, and he created this super elaborate plan.
All my points.
To basically, like, crazy elaborate to basically trap Nobunaga, and then just like either kill him or actually enslave him, possibly. Anyway, it was as close to a perfect plan as
Time out.
Yeah.
You're talking about one player character enslaving another PC.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I cannot think of anything, like, if people hate it when their characters die, I can't imagine the crash out you would get if you had one character enslave another PC.
I imagine that Angry could have rolled with that. I'm pretty sure he could have rolled with that. He would have been like, whatever, that's just how it goes, because Angry's cool like that. Or he would have re-rolled, and either way he would have been fine. But Kuro, if you would take a moment to just explain the crazy setup without getting bogged down in all the 5e speak.
So it kind of goes down. I think one of the things that I had advantage of over a lot of players in this game is I'm very 5e knowledgeable in depth.
Right on.
And even before this game, but then this game, like, I read every spell through multiple times, like looking for like very distinct wording things. But
you are the Macho Randolph of 5e.
Yeah, but, and so it's interesting because this character, I never planned to like have this character be like combat guy.
Mhm.
I made him as like an infrastructure guy, so I didn't have the toolkit that was like go out and kill this dude who's terrorizing everything. So I'm trying to think, well, what tools do I have at my disposal that I can put together? And this is where it kind of comes back to the information game. I was under the false pretense that Nobunaga was himself a demon or a fiend, which was kind of the failure point of the entire first encounter with him. But essentially, long story short, I made a magical Rube Goldberg machine, as all of my plans had, where I would open a demiplane, which would then have glyphs of warding in it that would chain react into blah, blah, blah. And he was supposed to be trapped in a magic circle because he's a fiend. He'd be trapped in the magic circle. And then I can use planar binding to bind him to my control.
And make a slave out of him.
Yes, but the problem was he was not bound because he was not a fiend. And then it just kind of threw everything into this very chaotic, like, I'm still trying to kind of trap him, but he's keeps being one step out of being trapped. And then he almost killed me, but I escaped. But then I came back into the second encounter with him with that information, and had a similar plan, this time with a different Rube Goldberg machine. So activated my Rube Goldberg machine, which basically the long and short of it is with no save, he's trapped inside of a demiplane. And then the plan was then to force him into being something that is planar bindable with true polymorph.
You're going to polymorph him into a fiend?
Yeah, and then planar bind him anyway. So that was the plan. I had him in the box.
That is.
They said I was the bad guy.
Yeah,
that is crazy, man.
I had him in the box. And this,
I bet again, that didn't happen in y'all's games. You people watching at home.
Yeah.
Like 4D chess.
And real quick, I want to stress that this was all rules as written, 5e.
Yes.
Like, I will polymorph you into a powerful fiend so that I can abjectly enslave you.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. When I was the Aeon later in the game, I made instant kill traps you could activate from anywhere within like multiple days travel of the target location with suggestion. It turned suggestion into an instant kill.
Wow.
Never got to use them because I was instant kill. But anyway.
But this gets into something that I was going to ask Serious DM about a while ago when we were talking about from a player perspective fairness. And the assumption is different. If it's GetAlong Gang, we're all trying to get the ruby, and your job is to make sure I have fun. What's fair is that you don't throw anything at me that I can't handle. The moment you introduce PvP, now your job, if you still want to be a fair DM, is I need to accurately represent what would happen in this universe given all of the plays of these players. So I may be playing a guy and you're like, okay, you looked at the wrong sign and you got suggested and it made you walk into this trap and it instantly killed you. And I'm like, what the? That's not fair. I didn't even have a chance. But if somebody had the foresight and spent all the diamond, gold dust, powder, whatever they needed to buy in order to set that up, then is it fair for my guy to just get one shot like that? How do you handle that as a DM? And do you worry that they will not understand that you are actually being fair, but they just don't know everything that's going on?
Yeah, well, the short answer is that, like the tournament guy said to Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore, you got to play it as it lies, right? Even off of Frankenstein's fat foot, you got to just stick to like you know, like if somebody made a move, then you've just got to adjudicate it as fairly as you can. And sometimes you have to deliver tough news. Like Kuro was saying, the second encounter between his character and Noble Naga, his Rube Goldberg machine was such that Noble Naga got no save. Like rules as written, he got no save, and he was just stuck in a demiplane until Kuro's character would go and get him, and whatever would happen.
So how long did you leave him there?
Which I want to add. So this was not a victory for me. It is a perceived victory, but this was just his turn to run away and come back for the later victory.
Got it.
He ended up killing himself and turning himself into basically the Lord of the Rings One Ring, which was information I didn't know. I just thought, okay, he killed himself. Dang it, my plan failed. My plan, again, that I thought was perfect was not perfect because I did not think he would kill himself in captivity and ruin my plan. So I just, okay, he's dead. He must have had this ring on him when he died, along with this sword that I found. These are his items. But again, it was just, that was him running away, which later turned into coming back and winning the entire campaign.
That seems like an amazing move. Like a Uno reverse. Well, you've trapped me in a demiplane. You know, you cannot win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall be more powerful than you can imagine. Like, he was like, I'm just going to turn into Sauron then.
Yeah.
And I guess that was also rules as written, DM.
So on that,
he didn't know the rules. He's like, I'll
to elaborate a little bit. So this is Angry Steak, right? He's like, don't talk to me about the rules. Just like, I want to do this, and then let me know what happens. You know. So I'm like, okay. Before that fateful meeting where he got trapped by the Rube Goldberg machine, he spent a lot of resources on creating a very powerful ring, right? And it was described as like, I want this ring to be like the one ring, right?
Okay.
Like he actually contracted some other players to like get him a beholder eye because it was going to be anti-magic, and it was
Amontillado. That was a lot of fun.
Amontillado.
yeah,
that's right. He created a whole persona named Amontillado, who like sent out in the rumor system, like in the like public posts, you know, sent out to the whole server, like this is news to the world, you know, sort of thing. He created a persona called Amontillado who advertised needs for certain magical components. You know, some of them were like total bullcrap, like he didn't care about, but he did care about the beholder eye. And so some players actually got him that.
Wow.
Anyway, so
that's that thing you're talking about, where like the patron players and the session players, their needs overlap, and it creates gameplay for you.
Yes, 100%. And so he created this amazing ring. Basically, he finished the ritual to create this ring that he dumped like a bunch of his soldiers' lives. He just dumped into the ring, you know.
Okay.
He finished that like right before Kuro's character went to find, like literally right before. And then so I just told him, and then Angry's he's just the chillest guy. So I had to deliver that tough news that I was talking about, where I'm like, well, the bad news is that you're trapped and there's no save. The good news is that we don't have to roll anything for that. Like, we don't have to go back and forth about what happens and this and that. You know, it's not going to take however many posts to resolve that.
Automatically happens.
So yeah. So that's a thing, you know, and I'm like, what are you going to do? And then, you know, he went back and forth, and he's like, I want to pour my soul into the ring. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So he did that. And then Kuro's character came in, his Kalen Voss came in, which is Kuro's character. Kalen Voss went into the demiplane and saw nothing but ashes, a sword. And then, you know, he like looked through it, and there was a ring, and I didn't like go to great lengths to describe the ring, like with like a lot of detail. I was like, it's a magic ring. It looks like it can do this, you know? And he didn't really like look into it further than that. And so he was carrying around the one ring. And then that'll become important later. But Kalen Voss was just walking around, unbeknownst to him, with the one ring, which I think he got visions from once or twice, but he never put two and two together, and he never realized that it was because he had the ring.
So were you
wasn't
making up
subtle
the
about that
visions, or
either.
was Steak feeding them to you? Like,
That
this
was
is
me.
what he
Steak was
dreams
feeding him
about.
100%. He
Yeah,
was giving
no.
them to me, and then I would post them into Kuro's chat and be like, this happens. You get these visions. And he's like, what?
Yeah, so to note, they were completely like obvious, you know, like it's like I am visiting you in your dreams type obvious, serving tea, stuff like that. Like there was no way to confuse me with literally anybody else.
Yeah, it was definitely like, this is him, we're having a conversation. It just never occurred to me. I was under the impression like he's in hell or heaven or wherever, you know, the afterlife.
Wait,
And
had you
he's
turned him
like-
into a fiend at this point? Or
No, that's like,
Okay.
this was the very first time I went. So this was just the next day.
okay,
After trapping him, I was like, all right, now I'm gonna go do my plan. And then I go in and he's dead. And I was like, no.
you're like, what happened in here?
Yeah, so I was under the impression that he was like communicating to me from the afterlife,
Okay,
with like sending or dream or something, because I didn't know what
you didn't
lore we were
realize he was
using.
nestled in your chest hair.
Yeah, because like in like D&D lore, like you die and like you just like, oh, I wake up in the afterlife and I'm still like me and whatever. So I didn't know if like that's what would happen, and then he was casting dream or whatever from the different plane of existence or whatever. I didn't have a lot of time to figure it out before I died.
All right. Well, there is a question in the chat. Michael asks, how much more fun is DMing a PvP game? 10x, 100x?
I'll take that. So the beautiful thing about PvP is that other players become gameable content for players. Like they do things, they send out waves into the game world, and then other players can engage with that. So the DM isn't constantly on the hook for creating everything for the players, right? So I would say without PvP, you cannot have a living, breathing world. A skilled DM could approximate one, you know, if they just put a ton of time into it. But it will be constantly dependent on the DM's heroics. And it's just, to me, it's just not sustainable. I mean, I don't know, maybe like there's some guy who can do it, but yeah, it's PvP makes the game way more robust, way more likely to last.
To me, the thing is it a game, like, who is thinking about the game while it's not happening? In a conventional game, the DM is always carrying so much around in their noggin and trying to produce something on game day. And they show up, you know, they put their phones down, they play for a couple hours, and then they get to just go live their lives while you have to prepare for the next thing. Whereas in this kind of game, because you know there's another mind on the other end of every conflict, and you know the DM is going to try to be fair to both of them, everybody that's involved is going to be thinking about it even when they're not in the game. Have you guys, I'm seeing some nodding there. Barros, did you experience that as well?
100%. I mean, I was going to answer the question that, I don't know how much more fun DMing PvP is as opposed to playing it. I know how much more fun playing it is. It's infinitely more fun.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
Anonymous
says, bro, I had dreams about Drakonheim.
Reality, friend.
I was spending like every minute of free time like researching 5e spells, just like figuring out every little trying to figure out every little way to like chain them together, and it's just, it is wild to me that like these stories, it's like the prequels, Star Wars prequels. You know, George Lucas says they rhyme. You know, because I made a Rube Goldberg machine to try to get Aeon. I did the like let's break up the supply chains things. I did all the same things that you guys did. I just did them worse.
No, speaking of Rube Goldberg machines, I sent Kuro one as a joke because he opened the demi plane. I'm like, hey, I have a question. Since I saw the demi plane, and demi plane says I'm allowed to open one I'm familiar with. Can I just go in there? So I planted one of my cannons and I like literally just set up all these runes and stuff. And the best part is there's a magic mouth that's just like, hello, Tomodachi, and then just everything explodes. The thing is, it's like, yeah, no, I want this to be Tom and Jerry level stuff, right? You get in there and it's just
you open
silly.
the door and the cannon comes out.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's good fun, right? I guess so. Having been on the receiving end of the one turn kill thing,
Yeah,
that could be incredibly frustrating. But maybe this is just because I've dealt with the things I have through the years.
mm-hmm.
But like I try to, even if invested and need a break, I try to view it as what comes next. So like had I been enslaved, man, playing the enslaved devil, or I was a dragon, by the way. That's why his stuff didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my subtype because I'm a Japanese knockoff. I gotta be a dragon. So what was it? It's about trying to figure out how to make the best of the situation, but also enjoying what comes from it. By having all the people interacting with each other, creating the bits of lore, the events, the fun, the system that we were using with the rumors and stuff. All of those were good fun. Writing up Amontillado, it was fun. It was silly. Like basically the long and short on that, I needed supplies, so I made up a thing about how why thought that he thought she was ugly, so he needed to make a potion. Eye of the Beholder, and there was just a bunch of beauty puns with that, and no one figured, oh yeah, it's this guy.
The Beholder.
Yeah. There's a list. You got to read some of them. They're hilarious.
Oh,
but the point is that like there's multiple levels here. You get to play catty, you get to have fun and tongue in cheek. You get to make jokes like the Rube Goldberg bits, and then you got to think, okay, well, had I been enslaved, right? That puts me in that, okay, well, now I get to play the role instead of the DM having to be like, okay, this devil's going to try and like turn on you at some point. Now you as the player get to be that guy.
Yeah.
And because it adds that bit of mystery, now you're just like, okay, well, the DM might have done this, but you're not dealing with the DM, are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
You never know what you're going to end up with.
There's a lot of points I want to make about that. First of all, Bradford Walker says PvP also allows referees to offload a lot of the work to the players. I think you're seeing that with some of the stuff Sirius was doing. I didn't want Kuro, you're about to say something. I didn't want to step on your line, man. Go ahead.
No, yeah, you're good. I was just going to say, it's like Ingrid was saying, it's about what happens next after the instant kill. Because as I look at it, there were a lot of instant kills in the game, but none of them, I think, were successful. I put him in a box, but then he did his thing. And because you're focused on, well, what's next? He found his own way out of the instant kill and out of enslavement. Barros dropped a 10-mile tall tower on my character, and I had to figure out a way that our anonymous in the chat got teleported into an underwater microwave death trap.
He says he drowned in a microwave.
Yeah. It's like there's so many instant death things going around that it becomes part of the it goes back to there's no perfect plan, which means there is a way out of it. Because
it's like the meme where the guys have the nooses around their necks and he's like, first time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so I think it's really important to maintain that mindset, because the chances that you walk into some kind of trap or something that puts you at a massive disadvantage, if not an instant death adjacent experience, is fairly high when you're going into PvP. And then I just wanted to address this comment here. It says, yep, that's the one. You fellows might have already discussed, but a common criticism of PvP is that it leads to griefing, or maybe not, in a game that is upfront explicitly PvP, considered fun minigame within the game. For this, I don't think there was any griefing because everybody is a level 20 Giga Chad.
That's right.
And so if so and so goes and kills someone else, well, then now he's public enemy number 1 to the community of that person's perceived allies. And then the second section of that is the PvP was the game. Everything that drove the game forward was PvP. The only time that the game was not completely driven by every character in every direction by PvP was the very, very beginning, before people had hands in each other's pies.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to address that too.
Yeah, you go ahead. You haven't talked like all show, so please, you go ahead.
So to some degree, I think the focus on PvP is mistaken, because it's not like a switch you turn on or off. It's actually just a downstream effect of having a game world that you take seriously and letting players actually have real agency to decide what they want to do. And when you do that, it's not like, oh, this thing I'm interacting with is a player, therefore I have to attack them. That's not what it's like. Most of the players that I met with, I tried to convince them that I was a good ally. Basically, I tried to get them to work.
Yeah.
To incorporate them into my plans. So it's not like you're not just like cutting each other up in the street or whatever. PvP happens because the roles that you're playing are naturally opposed in some circumstances, and in other circumstances, the roles that you're playing, you run into somebody that's working in parallel already to you, and now you combine your forces, that kind of thing. So that it's almost a mistake to say, oh, this is a PvP game, or this game had PvP in it. Like, of course it did. Like, there's no other way to have a real game world that you can take seriously. There's no way to have confidence in the game world being something meaningful without that being a possibility.
It's just the natural result.
It's true. When bros say PvP, the supile hears like rogue versus paladin arena fight. That's what they hear,
Yeah.
And they flip out, but what we mean is you can pursue your own goals. That's it. That's all PvP is. I mean, like
yes, you can actually pursue your own goals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can
not within some arbitrary, you have to be nice to everybody. You can just actually pursue what your goals are. Mm-hmm. And if somebody's in your way, you can move around them, you can work with someone else to move around them, or you can plow through them.
Yeah. And I think you described it perfectly. It's the natural consequence of people having their own goals. Someone says, I want to do X, and then someone else says, well, I want to do X, or I don't want you to do X.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They go head to head.
Yeah, a lot of times you're dead set against someone that you don't even know exists too, because of the way this game works. You have a certain objective in mind, and they have you may not even know they exist. You may not have any idea what their plans are. They have a certain objective in mind, and these are completely mutually exclusive, and the two of you just simply cannot coexist. Like, your two plans cannot coexist. So you can be at PvP with someone that you don't even know is part of the game.
All right, Spellgrave is in the chat. Wants in on the conversation. Can someone send him the link to the green room? We may have to do a little musical chairs. I don't know.
I'll do that.
Okay. So while that's happening, why do you guys think that when people see PvP, they assume it means everybody killing each other to steal their loot? Like, is that just because
I can
combat
answer
is so
this
baked in
very
the 5th
easily.
edition? And is that a function of like our assumptions are different because we're on different sides of that curtain we talked about, right? Like on one side, DM is fair to the party because he is the world and we're only, we're getting along. And then on the other side of that ego death is like once you let go of that, then you can roll with it. I'm gonna ask that question and then I'm gonna like actually I can only have 6 people on at a time. I'm gonna dip for a second and let Spellgrave jump in my spot because it sounds like you guys might have something to say about that. So go ahead, Rule.
Well, a lot of people are not going to like my answer, but basically, if you hang out with nasty people, then turns out when you let them loose and you say, "Oh yeah, you can do all kind of stuff," then they imagine ways to ruin everything and to make everyone unhappy. So that's the first step that you should do is get those people out of your life.
Yeah, I also want to add, I think there are 2 things that I think adds to this misconception of PvP. The first is video games. PvP in video games is very much okay, everybody is thrown into an arena fight. And then the second is conventional 5e play. If you're thinking about PvP from that mindset, typically that's, hey, there's these 2 allies and they're supposed to be friends with each other, but the rogue is stealing the thing from the other guy or is betraying his friend. And it's supposed to be this thing where we're all nice to each other and you're ruining that. And so from that mindset, it's going to have a negative outlook that does not translate to the way that this game was played.
I don't know, man. I think people just lack imagination. Paladin versus rogue is boring as hell. I'm gonna stab him when he walks out. No, you need a plot. You need a plan. What kind of beautiful villain are you gonna be stabbing some guy? No, you gotta do something. You gotta make him fall. You gotta, I don't know, let him experience suffering. Come on, man. Anyway, that's my rant on that. People have no imagination. They don't think about the long play.
No, it's true. I mean, you figure out pretty quick that if you want to kill somebody, lots of times depends, but lots of times it's not that hard, especially if it's like low level, But then when you like get that, then you realize that it's not that fun. And that the way more fun thing is exactly what Angry just described, which is like, okay, I could just shank the guy and then like, yay, good for me. And then he re-rolls and then it's like, okay, well, the game moves on. Or I could come up with like a crazy plot where he ends up, I don't know, having to betray his temple or something. I don't know, something spicy like that rather than just like the plain old, I murdered him and took his stuff.
I don't know. It felt pretty satisfying killing Shazak.
After he killed you, though, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Barros, you're on mute.
Looks like he's not on mute. Yep, we can hear you.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it's this freaking headset, man. It's got a little button that sits right at my waist. And if I shift wrong in my seat, it presses the button. But yeah, I was just going to bring you up, Spellgrave, in relation to that guy's comment about griefing, because you kept showing up everywhere I went. I couldn't escape you. But yeah, no, that battle, despite how salty I got about certain aspects of it, it is still like in my mind one of like my all-time best gaming experiences, because there was nothing more cinematic than you whipping out that power word kill at the very end. Like it was gorgeous, beautiful, and it couldn't have happened unless we had these kinds of things in place. And then it just so happened that after Shazak died and I came back into the campaign as the Swamp Tyrant, that just happened to be the ancient black dragon that you killed. And so I had an in-character reason to go after you. So it was great. It all worked out.
Yeah, I mean, the PvP aspect was, and I mean, I don't fault you for being salty after that death. I was extremely salty after my first go around with you. So, I mean, it was definitely a tit for tat, and revenge was on the table. But yes, it was very interesting to just always be at odds. You rolled up your second character, and it was like, what in the heck is going on here? I just cannot get this guy off my back.
I promise you, I did not mean for it to happen. I was like, all right, I think I'm ready, but I have no idea what I want to play. And Sirius was like, here you go, you can be that guy. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's see here. Let's look in the thing and find out a little bit more about him. And Spellgrave killed him. Okay, cool. So yeah, it was good. It's good times.
Let's see. I'm kind of torn between answering that question and just filling in the blanks on some of the interactions between, like, the PvP battles that Spellgrave and Barrows are talking about. What do you think, Dunder?
He's gone. This is our show now.
All right.
Lost its show again.
Okay. Well, yeah. So Spellgrave and Barrows are talking about how Barrows was a Gnoll Death Knight named Shazak, who was running around tearing up the country, and Spellgrave was determined to stop him. Spellgrave was this wizard. He was a 20th level wizard. And so he was out scouting for Shazak's forces, I believe, on a mountain range at the same time that Shazak was flying around on his griffin, I think, like an undead griffin, and looking for, I don't know what he was doing. But anyway, they encountered each other without realizing the stakes, without realizing how powerful one another was. And like they just immediately started fighting. Anyway, like the first battle ended in like Shazak killed Spellgrave and like took his face because he's a horrible Gnoll. Later, so Spellgrave got resurrected and then came to fight Shazak with an army of elementals. And Shazak had an army of gnolls and lizardmen and demons and skeletons and all this stuff. Anyway, that fight came down to like the very nub where Spellgrave had basically no resources left. His fly spell was, no, it was a featherfall spell that was taking him gently to the ground because he had been flying and his fly spell got dispelled. So he was falling to the ground. Meanwhile, Shazak is at the ground, just waiting for Spellgrave to come, like a batter waiting for the pitch, just anticipating it, And then Spellgrave realized that he had actually a power word kill spell scroll. Like he had no spell slots, but he had that scroll. And then, right before Shazak got him, he hit him with power word kill, which worked because Shazak had been reduced to 97 hit points. And none of that would have worked if we would have just been like fake about it, if I would have had an agenda, like it needs to play out this way. And it wouldn't have worked if people wouldn't have been honest in tracking hit points and resources and things like that. Like it could not have been, I couldn't have scripted it to be that epic.
And also we can't forget about the memes. Like the meme.
The chat memes were glorious.
So good.
They were so funny. And I think it's important. Sorry, go ahead, Spellgrave.
Well, I was going to say, it was, to echo what Barrow said, it was probably the most adrenaline pumping event that I have ever had playing D&D. Now, I've only played 5e, and I've been playing for 10 years, but regardless of the system, it was the most adrenaline pumping. I mean, I was literally shaking after the end of that session. And
then going back to what we talked to before about ego death, like if I remember correctly about what I read based on this interaction, Shazak could have saved himself because as Spellgrave was falling, Shazak could have turned invisible and then wouldn't have been able to be targeted by the spell, and then Spellgraves falls and is killed. And so it's really easy as the player to see something like that and for your reaction to be angry, because if you had just noticed that, or if you had like realized that it would have been important, then that you could have done it. There were a lot of times, an example when after Shazak's death and he was then the Black Dragon and I fought him with an army of angels, I had thought of like a formation. I essentially had two beholders, and I thought of a formation where they all fly. The beholders are facing each other so that everybody in the entire army is in anti-magic. But I was like, oh, this is such a niche thing. It probably won't come up. And then I sent my army at the dragon, and they were hit by a meteor swarm, and all of them died instantly. And so it's very easy in those moments to be like, oh, dang, like I could have done invisibility. I should have, put this, anti-magic formation forward. But I didn't. And there's nobody to blame with that on but myself. So accept it, move on, enjoy what happened for what it was. Don't let the potential negatives override what, once you're past that, is one of the greatest experiences that you can have in tabletop gaming. Whether you won or whether you lost, it's really adrenaline pumping and really an exciting moment.
Yeah, to elaborate on that a little bit, in that situation, like Kura was saying, he had two beholders who were, well, there were two angels, right? But like the big eyeball, multi-wing angels reflavored as beholders, beholders reflavored as angels. And like you said, his plan was to fly around with these beholders, basically encasing his army in anti-magic, thus making them immune to like spells, right? Meanwhile, he had been fighting a dragon, a big black dragon named the Swamp Tyrant, controlled by Barros. And Barros is like, screw that. I'm going, like, he didn't see this formation. He just, like saw his enemies and said, I'm going to meteor swarm that. So he did, right? Except, and so Kuro did not mention to me that this formation was in effect. Like, it was one of those things where he meant to, like in his mind.
Yeah.
Like
I said, I had made it, but then I was like, this is so niche. It's probably not going to come up. I don't want to burden the DM with the extra information. So yeah, never sent it to him.
So that was a pretty bitter pill for him to swallow, because it was one of those things where he meant to say it, but he never did. And then anyway, so yeah, just you gotta toughen up a little bit to play bro games.
Well, like I will say on that note, the amount of thought and planning and like paranoia that you end up gaining as a player in these PvP games, even with like people that you're interacting with that you think are your allies, you're always in the back of your mind trying to plan contingencies of like, is this person going to betray me? Who is this person really? What are they actually up to? And like, how do I protect my stuff? And who's going to try and come and take it? Is there a player that I don't even know about yet that's going to just like pop in and be like, hey, I saw all your posts and I know that you're a target?
Yeah, speaking of posts, Dundermoose asked the question. So he said the post or it didn't happen mandate. Scene system was arguably the most important rule in the game. How did it change your strategic approach, especially when a plan failed? So yeah, the background there is that whenever a character, a faction made a move in the world, I generally required them to create some sort of public post that would draw attention to that. Basically, I either say this is what's happening, in kind of like a news article sort of way, or hint, like in the form of a rumor, like somebody was seen over here. I wonder what that's about. Because yeah, like it's been said many times in bro circles, like if nobody saw it happen, did it happen, right? And
Pixar didn't happen, bro.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it registers the order. It basically registers the event into the game world as a real, like as a concrete thing that happened. So anytime you read a scene post, you know that something happened there.
Yeah. Creating that shared register, of events of the campaign world was important, because otherwise you don't know what's going on, right? Like if somebody did something over there and there's no information about it, then there's really nothing to engage with, and if you have a post that's at least says something over here is going on, then at least there's enough information to say, I want to find out more. You send like a spy over there to go get a better look or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can hook into that. You can engage with that.
There's
so
another dimension too, which is that even if it's something that happened previously that wasn't on your radar, you can go back at the scene posts and reflect on it and say, oh, I remember something happening over here. Maybe that was the source of whatever I'm interested in now. So it's not just the in the moment. It's like it registers the event in the game world, but it also creates a kind of like a history of events that happened.
There were a lot of times on that note where something had happened and then it brought a post to my memory. So I went back and researched it, and just all these things started connecting of like, oh, that's what this was, that's what this is. And everything kind of falls into place of
all your red threads suddenly made sense.
Yes, exactly.
So just feedback on that in general. Manipulating that was probably something that I found the most fun. So I mentioned earlier, I'm not really the big guy in front, but if there's one thing I love doing, it's information manipulation. I'll be that guy in the background. I'll be subtle, using the Amontillado post. I wanted the eye of the beholder, but you have to make people not think, oh, he wants that eye. No, you got to flavor it in any way you can. You got to manipulate the signal to noise ratio to favor anything that you're doing, and hope it either flies under the radar or draws attention to the other person or another target. It's absolutely glorious.
So Dunder mentions, he says, bring that note up about anonymity and misdirection. So he says, throughout the campaign, communication often happened through anonymous message demons. Rule of Thule, you operated the two-site cabal behind the quote-unquote charitable Creed to Twin Visions. And, oh yeah, I see this second part. How did this layers of secrecy approach influence your interactions with players you couldn't identify, such as the people playing the various characters I interact with? So that's another element of scene, is that it has to be a public facing something. And the idea behind the faction that I made, the Snake Men faction that were in the Underdark, was that they were very isolated, and they were, as a result, sort of inherently hidden or less than public. So I created a sort of little sub faction that was more public, that was doing stuff out in the world, that was gathering information, and they were kind of, at first at least, what everybody saw before the Snake Men were revealed.
So somebody in the chat is saying, how is the game campaign conducted? Weekly, in person, Discord session, but always on via Discord messaging, all play by post, etc. It was all online, always on, as long as the DM is awake and available. Then you could do voice sessions by scheduling with the DM. And then I also wanted to talk about, there was a post earlier about what kind of, let's see, whose tag says, I only play chainmail, so I don't know any of these spells and stuff, but it sounds complex. Can you talk about the shared skill in the system the group needs for this? Two things on this. I think the majority of players that played in this campaign were not very familiar with 5e, at least when they started. But in my experience playing, there's nothing that got me more into learning the system and deep diving into the spells and all of that than having to fight somebody who did something that you can't even begin to fathom how they did it. There was no bigger motivator for me to increase my knowledge of the game than witnessing these other players accomplish crap that I could not even comprehend, which happened multiple times.
I would actually, to go back to an earlier question about how the campaign was conducted. I think for me, there was some back and forth sometimes in very dense, in a dense sea of events. There was a lot of back and forth where Sirius was asking me. He would say, well, what are you going to do given that you see this? And I would say that, and there would be back and forth to resolve something. But for the most part, for me, it was just weekly orders. And sometimes there would be something that would happen during the week. And I would say, well, in that case, we would have done, these guys that see this would have done that. And so it was a quite strict, I guess I would say, type 2 Braunstein, where the idea is that you submit a weekly order, like you submit a scheduled order at a particular time, and then your order is sort of good for that week. It's like that's what you're doing over that course of time. But there were times where you had to, drill closer into something. Some particular event happened, and there was some details to work out. How did one-to-one time work across an insanely huge map? How did it not work? You can't have a real campaign without one-to-one time.
I think the confusion might be that it wasn't like 1 hour for every hour, right? It wasn't like that dialed in one-to-one. If I could, it was 1 day for 1 day, but more often it was more like 1 week for 1 week, because the nature of posting and people's schedules meant that if somebody made a move on Tuesday, and somebody made a move that might affect it, that might conflict or engage or impact on Wednesday, then sometimes I would say, okay, well, that's close enough that, it's at the same time. Like those two orders interact. Those players see each other somehow. Because otherwise, it wouldn't have worked with scheduling and things. People would have kind of they would have missed their shot way too often.
Yeah, and there's a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say on that note about the timing and the scheduling type questions. It takes time to execute orders as well as to write them up, and then to reflect on them and to try to present them. So because you have to make a scene post, you have to learn. You have to allow time for Sirius to let the effects formulate, and then you learn what the result of your actions was, and then you make a post about it later. So all these 3 elements take time. So there would be a delay. You might do something on Monday, but it's not really resolved until Tuesday or Wednesday, and then you get around to making your post on Thursday, kind of thing. So it's kind of dependent on doing a weekly schedule so that everything kind of happens over the course of a week.
Yeah, I think week by week is the best way to put it. While there were things that happened day by day, especially if you get into anything that involves somebody other than you and the DM,
right?
It slows things down where it's like, I've done something and now it is his turn to do something, and especially with different time zones and things. An event that in the game took, a like 20 minutes or something can take up the entire week of real time. So week by week is
well, and I think one of the things that people often think about with one-to-one time is like time jail, because your party sat around the table and they played for 2 weeks in game time, and now those characters are stuck. But I found what most often happened is that, the battle between me and Barrows took, I think, 3 IRL weeks to resolve. And so technically my character then had to catch up with the rest of the campaign. So more often than not, I felt like a character would get stuck in the past trying to resolve an order or an action or some interaction with another player. And then you're trying to catch up with the rest of the world and what's happening.
It was more like 3 days for the first one and then like 10 for the next one, I think. But yeah, point taken. Just the nature of play by post means that
5e
and 5e. 5e is very
for sure,
quite often, and that requires, like, I need input from you, now you, now you, now you. And because of posting, sometimes there's delays, and yeah, so it can take a while to roll out something like that.
I think it's important to mention, because the viewers don't have all this extra knowledge, but we eventually, for larger battles, when armies would clash, we moved into Hell March, which is basically chainmail. And so it would have been, obviously it would have been impossible to play stuff like that out with the 5e combat rules. But Tag has a really good question. He says, as long as one person isn't giving 400-page orders of what every single minion is doing, that's a very good. So when you're playing a faction, you have to understand that, you're like a manager. And as a manager, you're a really bad manager if you go around to every employee and micromanage them to, until they become you, and they're not going to become you. So you have to, like Sun Tzu says, you have to put the right people in the right place, essentially, and rely on things going the way that you set it up, basically. So you have to have a little bit more hands off, not micromanaging every, like, oh, well, this guard standing on this stair step would have never stepped away from his post because he's, whatever.
I wrote his backstory. He's an honest guy.
DLSD25 had a good question at 8:30 where he said, do you think that while this style has more back and forth, always on play, it cuts back on the more face-to-face / voice interactions more over time when something big plays out? So if I understand, he's basically asking, does the posting kind of like take the place of the face-to-face table play? And I would say for this campaign, given all the schedules, there would be no face-to-face table play because everybody lives across the country. Everybody's got all these different work schedules. And so really the only way to play at all was play by post.
And there's like 30 20 to 30 players.
Yeah, there was
sometimes.
there's a lot of people
Yeah.
playing, and then
Not possible.
I mean, where it was possible, like in some cases, I got people together to play, live, but that was hard, just again because of schedules. So
The Type 2 Braunstein has a really big advantage for people that cannot do something like commit 6 hours a week on a particular day in conjunction with other people who can commit exactly the same time slot. It's really good for those people because they can all get together anyway, and because you're playing by post, it's like if you can't manage your orders on Monday, you can submit them on Tuesday. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. You have that week of buffer to get basically to have your intent put out there.
Yeah. I will also add, I didn't feel that the lack of face-to-face or voice interactions was inhibiting in any way with like my relation to the other characters. Like I have never spoken with Bayros before today or seen his face before today, but just through our interactions in game and in the player chat and like memeing at each other and trash talking, like you very much build the same kind of rapport that you would with doing a like in-person face-to-face.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, the rivalries were intense, and honestly, I came out of all of the rivalries feeling like I made some actual genuine friends. So
You love your rivals.
exactly, yeah, can't help but love
100%.
Love thy enemy, my friend.
Well, and all the relationships, whether they were antagonistic or working together, definitely are influencing the next phase as well.
100%.
Yeah, it's interesting that I've never quite experienced that like rivalry relationship that manifested itself in this game. To the point that like my first character, had he not died when he did, he was actually going to start looking into like reviving Nobunaga because he was just a chill dude.
I think something about the interactions is it's quite interesting to play a game with somebody for 9 months and not even be sure which person is on the other end, because I had some interactions with other characters where I didn't know who the player was because of the way that the back and forth was managed. And that's like a dimension that you can't get at a table. And it's something too that's only relevant in the long term, but it is an interesting thing. It in many ways makes the game world more real, because it's the same sense that you have. Like you might know the guy. I mean, you might be very familiar with him, his behavior or his personality. But if he's playing a character and it's not clear that he's the one playing the character, then you don't know, right? You can't necessarily associate those two things, and so it makes a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah,
it's quite different. I guess I would just summarize by saying it's not that you get less or more or something. It's just very different. It's a different experience. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just kidding. There were multiple times in the game where, yeah, you're interacting with someone, you don't know if they're a player or an NPC, and a couple times, especially in the end, assuming that someone or something was an NPC led to pretty drastic outcomes based on that inference.
Oh, absolutely. I that's a really good point, actually, Kuro, because I began, anytime I would interact with anything, unless I created it on the spot for necessity, after the second time I interacted with it, I assumed it was run by a player, because that happened several times. Like, if you think about it, Kayla Zoll's his character was just created out of nothing, and then he took it up he took up the role of that character later. He took up the role of that lizard tribe. So
Made it all the way to the top too. My homie right there.
I eventually just started assuming that anything I interacted with was in some way a player on the other end, whether it would become a player on the other end or it already was one. Because assuming something was an NPC and treating it like an NPC, like Kuro said, just led to really bad outcomes.
yes.
Yeah, and I think the thing that kind of got everyone with Diana in the end is that Diana never did anything. And so,
Yeah.
and so
Yes.
I think a lot of people chalked up Diana to like maybe it was a player at one point, but is not anymore, or an NPC the whole time. I don't know. But I think assuming that Diana was an NPC was like the master stroke, like finishing touch to it was the nail in the coffin that brought Rule of Thule and Angry Six victory together.
Diana is just another reason for my abject paranoia.
For those not in the know, so once Noble Naga was supposedly killed, right? But really escaped. His soul escaped into the One Ring. He still had assets, other demon assets out in the world, and a king of an important city announced, who was a player, announced that he was seeking a bride, because what else do kings do, right? And so Noble Naga had one of his demon assets pretend to be a suitable bride that ended up marrying the king. And again, like nobody suspected anything, because this bride, whose name was Diana, would make posts from time to time, coming off like almost like a saint, like just very generous and kind and benevolent, and nobody would suspect that she was actually just a demon. So everybody just kind of sailed along, right?
I want you guys to imagine the worst sort of cheesy chick flick dialogue, except for men, and that's what I got to spend my time writing. Okay, I will seduce your kings and make your kingdom fall.
Serious?
Like all true kitsnes, right?
Serious, can we get some context as to why he even did that in the first place? Why the king went looking for a bride?
That's a question for somebody in the chat. Oh no!
Like, I just want to understand what the impetus was behind it, because that led to another player also being like, "Hey, I want to get a bride too." And I will say, my in-character Spellgrave had a wife in game. That's because my wife was playing that character, and so I always had, her at my side. But I just want to understand what led these other players to being like, "Hey, I should get one too."
So the player here in chat says that he was just trying to drive the campaign into more interactions. Which I would guess. So recall, right, that when after the second battle with Shazak, where Shazak died, the important character named Archmage Taruel also died. And then just out of nowhere, Spellgrave was like, "I'm going to have a funeral for this guy." And then another important character was like, "Well, I'm going to show up and pay honors, and everybody else should too, or else you're a bum, And so it became this huge point of convergence, wherein one of those dignitaries, there was an attempted murder on one of those dignitaries, right? And so I'm guessing that, the attempt at a bride was more just trying to see if something like that could happen.
He wanted to secure his family line. He needed a son. He needed many sons, and I gave him the perfect opportunity for it.
Yeah, and that character, like the king's character, thought that he was like chatting back and forth with me the whole time. But I was relaying the posts from Angry because again, like nobody knew he was even in the game, even though he kept on getting pretty good player rankings, and everyone's like, "What is he even doing? You know, like how is he getting these high grades?" You know, little did they know, nobody knew. Like,
well, and the crazy thing about this type of game is that me saying, "Hey, I'm going to host a funeral for this other character," in all honesty, from my perspective, was a throwaway line. I was like, "Hey, I'll honor this. And then other players jumped on it and were like, "Yeah, totally. We should make this a thing." And I was like, okay."
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say earlier. So you never know what mundane thing is going to like suddenly spiral into this main event, main stage thing on the world.
Hey, man.
And it was really interesting to see that throwaway line turn into this massive assassination attempt.
Yeah. Say Dunder got it. You know, you always have to have a soiree, a party, or something. There's got to be something. A funeral, man, it's just a party with death. Lots of it.
And I mean that's pulling it all into to Dunder's question about what are the parts that started converging and how did it advance towards the conclusion. I can't think of a single thing that didn't happen in game that did not advance it towards the conclusion, that did not bring it towards convergence. Like it was just because there were so many different people doing so many different things, it all connected. And because of the scene system, they were all, you know, at least semi-related to each other because we were all responding to the things that everyone else was doing. It was an incredible system and an incredible experience.
We might get to it later, but I'd like to add to like the build-up of events. If you guys haven't read Thul's write-up, I mean it's long, but he really lays it out. You're looking at what, almost a year of play there too. So like. Everything happened just so. It wasn't a planned thing. It was destiny formulating this. We effectively let the dice fall, and what we got was something far beyond like what we could have made ourselves. Right? Like it was just absolutely fantastic.
So Dunder asked a question in the chat if the DM had to shoo us along. I would say the only shooing along was the player rankings. And I was going hard to get that E ranking, right? E's the top?
Yes.
And so like any scene post that popped up or any new player that I was like, oh, someone has now entered the game, I was poking and prodding as much as possible, which, you know, ended up being the reason I was building coalitions, and there ended up being two distinct sides at the end. But it was really just because I wanted that top tier ranking.
That's fair. Ranking your players is a winning secret.
I didn't have to do a lot of nudging, you know, like once things got going, people would make posts, right? Like I'd say, okay, you're going to do that and make a post about it, you know, and they, you know, the post would happen and that would go up, and people, I swear, would be like checking their phones immediately, like what just happened, you know, and then like within minutes I get an order like I want to investigate that, you know, like, and
I see so, a prime opportunity. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
People just wanted to do stuff, like they wanted to engage with whatever was going on.
That's how Diana came to be, actually. Is like I saw an opportunity. I was originally going to spy, and then after everything kind of happened, it's just like, oh, you know what? New opportunity. We're going all in. You know, you just kind of work with the plans and the events that happen.
So evolves. One thing about the scene system that may not be that obvious to readers or listeners, I should have made this more clear, but when somebody makes a post about something, it could be a completely throwaway. They might think nothing of it. So, but you have no idea whether it's the most important thing that ever happened or it's just nothing. You have no clue. So you begin to every person in the campaign will read these posts differently. Every player will read them and imagine something, you know, some kind of different priority or implication that it has, and they'll just run with it. But you don't know whether it's important. Like there's not like oh, red ones are important. I have to respond to those. It's not like that at all.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh God, I think his name is Michael on the Twitters, but DLSD25 said the players come in with goals, and yeah, it's right there. Did they come in with goals, or was there an end game condition? What prompted competition? So that's a great question. As all great Bronsteins start, there is some sort of fun toy to fight over, right? In this case, it was this object called the Divine Seam, which the campaign kicked off with this big post about all the sages of the land noticing or like speaking about disturbances and the magical energies of the realm, because this meteor basically like struck down in the ground down south past the sea, and they were sure that it was very, very ominous, very portentous. And anyway, that kicked things off. Like, it was supposed to be this very powerful object, and people were supposed to want it. So that got the ball rolling. But honestly, most of the fighting, most of the conflicts, most of all the interaction were only tangentially related to the Divine Seam at best. Most of it was just, like somebody wanted to do something and somebody wanted them to not do something, and then there was a fight.
It's kind of like the discussion we had earlier about PvP is just the natural result of players having free will to do whatever they want in the game world. So players 100% came in with goals. And like, for example, I don't think, and I had 3 characters. My first 2 did not care about the Divine Seam at all, did not care about really what like other people were doing. They had the thing that they wanted to do. But then what happened is, in pursuit of the thing that they wanted to do, so for example, my first character, I wanted to like set up an adventurers guild. I wanted to like build like these infrastructure type things that would then impact the world. But if I wanted to do that, I need my city to exist. And there's this demon army that is like destroyed like 6 cities and is moving towards me. And so you're kind of thrust into a position where I do have this goal, but in order to even be able to pay that goal any mind, I have to deal with this threat. Whether you want to participate in the competition or not, it's there and it's coming for you.
It's true. When I made Shazak, I think my prompt was that I've got a bone to pick with the Western lands. So, like, I knew that the Divine Seam was currently in the Western lands in Phalon. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to make a beeline down that way. Unfortunately, there was a huge mountain range in my way. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to make a detour through Rusvania and make a whole bunch of Eastern Europeans sad. But yeah, that was Shazak's goal, was to get to the Divine Seam. But when he died and I came back as a Swamp Tyrant, Kalith Zal was the guy that resurrected me as the Swamp Tyrant, and he already had the Divine Seam. And while I acknowledged that as a dragon, I would really want that really shiny rock, I also realized that it wasn't a good play. It wasn't a good thing that my character would do. He would want to ingratiate himself at the very least at first to the guy that brought him back to life, and try to find a way to get under the skin and then betray him at some point eventually. But so his first thing that he wanted to do, with the eventuality of getting to the Divine Seam, was to set up his own little empire, because you can't be called the Swamp Tyrant and just be in charge of one little speck of dirt. You got to have an empire. So my goals, while they were, exactly as Sirius said, tangentially related to the divine seam. Just the fact that there was some sort of locus for those goals to sort of orbit around at the very least was very influential.
When I joined, my goal was literally prod somebody into doing something. I did not expect to last the month, let alone as long as I technically did, because I was checked out for several months before the finale, just kind of playing around in the background. So, mission success, I guess. You don't got to overcomplicate it.
It's one of mine.
Dude, the meme war was great.
Yeah, that was let's see, the first owner of the divine seam was the Marquis Pell Andrex, and he ended up on the battlefield. And I guess, was Teruel there at the time? No, he wasn't. It was
No.
Pell Andrex was on the battlefield, and he was facing off against Shazak and Kalith Zal, the lizard man druid. And so he lost to he lost pretty badly to Shazak and Kalith Zal. And then I think this meme was made in anticipation of the fight between Shazak and then Spellgrave and Archmage Teruel, I think.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Which Archmage Teruel actually died there, but then, like we said before, Spellgrave ended up pulling it out at the very last second with the power word kill scroll.
Always chasing that E. You got to chase the E.
The best part of the grading was that there was no actual mechanical reinforcement. It was just, yo, step up your game, buddy, or I'm giving you a shit grade. That was reference to grading as well. I only grabbed a few of them. That one was the murder of Diana. Dude, we'll get to that, I guess, but that was just perfect.
Oh my gosh, that whole thing. We could do an episode on just explaining the last month of the game. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, it took you guys a week and a half to resolve the battle.
Yeah. And honestly, to bring it a little bit full circle, all the way back to the Sea Elves and how the Sea Elves were like, I'm not going to do the 5e thing where I'm just going to seriously micromanage everything and make a billion different roles. I'm just going to do one role. One thing that I really appreciated about the last battle was the fact that at least for me, it was, here's my order. These are the people that I'm targeting. These are the abilities that I'm using. And I just gave that to Sirius. And then maybe a day or two later, we'd get this huge post in the rumors about what our orders did. And then that would be the next turn. And we just keep doing it that way. That felt much more freeing for me. It felt it was really good. I really appreciated it because it made what would have taken, I think that a conservative estimate would be a month.
Probably over posts.
Exactly. Yeah. It turned a month into a week and a half, maybe. So.
Yeah. Just as an aside, that battle was, I had to take the orders of, it was at least a dozen different combatants, and across a battlefield that was basically 3 different tiers. That was hard. That was hard, but I'm glad it was worth it. What was the last question? Did we get to that?
Are there any questions? That's a great question.
I don't know. I was going to say that the divine seam, it didn't seem like very many people were focusing on it. until it got to the point where everyone had to focus on it. And, because it was like at the beginning I came in, I'm like, oh, the divine seam, it's kind of annoying. And then I was around when it traded some hands, and then it got in Jerry's hand, and I was like, I know I need to deal with this thing, but like, I don't have the mental time or capacity or resources, because everyone else here was playing a faction and I was playing a PC. Like, I didn't have a bunch of minions. I just had me. And so I was like, I need to go make a bunch of alliances and then convince them to help me deal with the divine seam problem. And that took a long time.
See, Noble Naga would have been very disappointed in your lack of ambition. What kind of mage does not want the most powerful godlike thing in the world? I think that's a P, if not an F.
I think something that is important about the divine seam that I think affected the campaign very drastically, that doesn't get enough praise, is that the divine seam also prevented teleportation beyond 100 feet by any means other than special lodestones, which is basically like fast travel to specific locations, and also prevented planar travel. And it's kind of like a small little thing, like, oh, so it does these things, but like that drove so many aspects of innovation. I think just due to those restrictions alone, the players in this campaign came up with tech that has not been before seen in 5e. Using reverse summoning to be able to travel to different planes despite the restrictions on planar restriction, or different means of like pseudo teleportation, essentially, to transport armies across long distances. I think that the creativity that aspect, which was only meant to kind of bring things into balance, so that like a wizard can't just run away at the drop of a hat by teleporting, spiraled into aspects of the game that I don't think were ever even thought of when the effects were created.
Oh, plug time, guys.
Plug time.
Go for it, Dunder.
Of Hercules.
I would say if you don't pop in. So I'll say I bought the first book. I'm not a strongman guy, not really my type of adventures. But I gotta say, like, once you get into it with the different authors taking the core theme of the anthology and just running with it, like, you have an amazing spread. Like, phenomenal book. I did not think I would like it as much as I did, and I hope the second one is just as good, if not better. Favorite from that one was the novella. I believe that was the last story. And the pseudo-futuristic one where our hero is like scaling the rundown destructive pipes of some like ancient civilization to fight. I think it was some bat lady or something. Nonetheless, it was cool as hell. So, good on you guys. Keep it up.
Man, did you guys see the art on that stuff too? That was incredible art.
Yeah, no, he always gets some fantastic artists.
Nice.
So
I definitely need to pick up. I need to pick up the copies because I haven't even gotten the first one yet. And now I need to get both. I need to scrape
definitely
together the cash, and being a stay-at-home dad, don't pay the bills. So, but yeah.
What Kuro was saying about the divine seam restricting teleportation to very, very short jumps, like 100 feet or less. Originally, I did that. Like, there was two reasons for that. One, I wanted to level the playing field a little bit between marshals and casters, because wizards can just teleport all around, while marshals, well, they just can't, not unless they have something like a magic item or something like that. But the bigger reason actually was that I wanted to provide some sort of like some incentive for people in the world to at least think about getting rid of the divine seam. Because if that's gone, if they destroy that, then they get their teleportation back, right? But I don't know if that actually drove anything. I don't know. But I'm glad to hear it worked out.
So orbital fortress strikes. Yes. that was a lot of fun. So this story, at least for me, it begins as Swamp Tyrant is trying to establish his domain and is knocking over some of the less well defended cities in Phalon. And out of nowhere comes this angel guy who I can't touch. I only do like 6 damage because my acid from my bite is the only thing that gets through his resistances and immunities. He nukes my army that's above ground. Fortunately, most of my army's underground, underneath the city, thanks to the tunneling of a purple worm. But this angel guy nukes my army with some crazy magic. And then he dips. He uses time stop and just disappears. And so I'm left to pick up the pieces, and I'm like, what would a Black Dragon do? Black Dragon would be very angry. Black Dragon would want to make sure that this never happens again. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up a Rube Goldberg machine. I'm going to invite this dude into my lair with a series of crazy glyphs. I'm going to trap him. I'm going to dump all of my high-level magic and acid and just like every trick of the trade to get this guy to dissolve in front of me. It doesn't work out very well, and I end up having to wish my my layer to like crumble onto the tunnel that he's trying to run away through. But he manages to escape, and I'm still like, okay, I still have to kill this guy. This guy has now entered into my home and tried to kill me, despite the fact that I invited him in. So I can't let that stand. I'm going to try to go to his house. Fortunately, thanks to Scene, I had just saw that his floating fortress, his floating tower, had come to a stop about 12 miles away from one of the major cities of the campaign, Shore Wiston. And so I'm like, okay, Calathzal, you, me, let's get out there and let's beat this guy's face in. And so we get over there and it's completely abandoned. There's no one there. And so on one hand, I'm panicking because just like Spellgrave, I've got this suspicious PvP mind, and I'm like, okay, if he's not here, he's doing something else to screw me. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna let that stand. Let's use this as the golden egg opportunity that has been given to us. Let's use this thing, and the image that immediately comes into my mind for those in the audience that are familiar with Gundam is the colony that the Xeon people throw at Australia. And I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this tower over to Shore Wiston because it's only 12 miles away. And while this thing moves very slowly, it's still going to be able to get there. So, because it was too far away from any other actual thing to do it. But it hit a couple of my goals. It would have caused extreme damage to the Aeon because he would be losing his lair. It would do extreme damage to the forces of good by destroying a whole bunch of civilians and potentially leaders and people like that in Shore-Wiston. And third, I knew Spellgrave after being kicked out of his house, which was now my house, was slumming it up in Shore-Wiston. And I was like, maybe, just maybe, I can catch him and kill him too. So that was the impetus. And at this point, I'll go ahead and cede it to Kuro, Spellgrave, anyone else that wants to chime in.
I will say, Spellgrave never slummed it up. He always had nice digs.
I was going to say that some of the interesting aspects of this is kind of like what we were talking about before about, okay, you're hit with this instant kill. What's next? If I understand correctly, the Swamp Tyrant had to use the Wish spell to drop the tower onto the Aeon who was invading his base. And even though he didn't kill the Aeon at that time, he killed all the Aeon's like big followers, and that forced him to stay in the area so that he could get them all out and revive them all. And then also right before that, he had meteor swarmed the armies. And so to the Swamp Tyrant's credit, he himself had ensured that the tower would be vacant by killing all of the angels and then tying up, even though he didn't kill the Aeon, he tied him up in the at the base, trying to revive the rest of his more important followers. And then this, I think, is the important part, is because he had just used Wish in 5e rules, that puts a lot of like really pretty harsh punishments on your character if you use it outside of like very specific rules. And so while Swamp Tyrant is in the middle of like dealing with severe character debuffs, like his strength is like basically nothing. He's like, strength is 3. He's like takes a bunch of damage if he tries to cast a spell, like all this stuff. It's really horrible. While that's going on, he's already like making his way over to my lair, which one, the balls on the guy for doing that. Because like he runs into anything on the way and it could probably take him out. But two, it's again goes back to what are you doing next? Your plan failed. Okay, well, did it? Because you may have not gotten the result that you intended to get, but you got a result, and now you are working with that result. And had Barrows been a player of lesser caliber, he would have been like, dang, all of this failed. I now need to go back and lick my wounds until this debuff wears off, which would have then ruined his opportunity to make this really critical attack. And even though the dropping the giant tower on the city was deflected to the best of Team Good's capabilities, it still landed and destroyed a really large portion of the city and was a really, really cool and pivotal moment in the campaign that kind of radicalized all the players on the good team to like bind together and all the players on the bad team to bind together. And I think if there was one event that drove the campaign to its conclusion, it was that event.
Yeah, this was definitely the catalyzing event. And, there really wasn't a Team Good until that tower dropped on the city. And then like all the people that I had been like in the back channels making alliances with individually, they all were like, okay, what do we do next, Spellgrave? And I was like, all right, you guys all got to come together and we got to do something about this. And so There was a question about everybody's alignment in game. I don't actually even think Spellgrave was good aligned. I think he was originally neutral, but I in real life am lawful good aligned, and I have a really hard time not playing lawful good aligned. Sirius and Kuro can attest to this. And who was Kuro? Who was the assassin, or who was the
Sarek?
No. The player's character that Sarek was aligned with.
Anonymous. He's in chat.
Yeah, Anonymous. I don't think his character was good aligned at all. If anything, he was like the neutral, leaning towards evil alignment, but he was definitely aligned against quote unquote team evil. And so it really was, team good was not like a bunch of lawful good characters all joining up together to stop evil. It really was a desperate coalition of the world is going to end if we don't do something about it.
Yeah, it very much was. There were a lot of characters that and me and Anonymous, my second character was Anonymous's like faction, and we were like pretty clearly an evil faction, but we're discussing like, okay, like this was before Shazak had died, and like Teruel and is going to go fight Shazak, and I think Shazak even came to us and wanted to hire us to assassinate Teruel at one point. But we were talking about who we wanted to side with, and it's like, yeah, we're evil, but like we're the kind of evil that requires a society to do the evil that we want to do. We can't, exist as the underbelly and, have, like the, kind of seedy control of the city if there is no city. And so it really, like you said, the team good was not a group of good guys. It was just the team that didn't want the world to end.
Yeah. Building on that, back to the lessons learned here is it became apparent as the game progressed that you would have basically good aligned characters and factions, or at least characters and factions who were interested in not completely destroying the world. And then on the other hand, you had factions and characters who didn't care, who just were like kind of like the Joker, like they would just watch the world burn, and that was like pretty much, that was good enough for them. That was it. And through some discussion, it became it seemed that there was kind of an imbalance there, right? Because the good guys can't protect all the world all the time, and then the bad guys who just want to blow everything up, they can go and strike anywhere, like they can find some place that's not being defended and they can attack it. And there's just an asymmetry there, right? And
and Sirius, it got to the point where it was like, if there wasn't a player actively in a city running it or protecting it, it was just open season.
Yeah.
On the rest of the world.
Yeah, 100%. And it seemed that what was underpinning that is civilization, according to the rules of 5e, is really not valuable. There's nothing to be gained from it. Like you can't extract labor or taxes or really anything from a city, So it's, as far as Team Evil's concerned, it's basically just a sandcastle on the beach, waiting to be kicked over. Yeah, that's something that I noticed with 5e is that, it doesn't model that. It doesn't have that economic underpinning.
Yeah, and I think even aside from that, like ignoring any sort of economic anything, I think that again, from a lessons learned perspective, the amount of evil characters that were like, I want to destroy the world evil, the frequency of that we had those in Drakonheim did not allow for other types of evil to flourish, or for two good kingdoms to have a quarrel amongst themselves over a resource, even if there was a resource to have a quarrel over. Like, because the I'm going to destroy the world evil was always there and was at a power level to even rival everyone else in the world combined, even if they're not good. It took away from what I think are more nuanced interactions of fighting, like dealing with a neighboring kingdom or dealing with a criminal underbelly in your town. You're the king. There's another player in your town who is running the criminal underbelly, and you guys are having this kind of like internal fight. Stuff like that wasn't allowed to happen because the criminal underbelly and the king had to join forces, otherwise the world's going to end. And there's not really another option. They're forced into that. And so I think that's, in terms of the world stage, I think that was one of my biggest lessons learned, is that type of evil needs to be, I don't know if this is the right fix, but it needs to be restricted in some way in terms of the number of players that are doing it, the frequency that it is allowed to happen. Somebody dies, well, now there's a new one, kind of a thing. The rest of the world never really got breathing room from dealing with the putting out the fires of team, I'm going to end the world.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we might call this like rampaging evil. Rampaging evil. The problem is the power level of everyone is so high, and the natural beneficiary of this is rampaging evil, because civilization can't protect itself. Like, what does it matter if you have a city? What does it matter if you have a king with all these loyal knights and whatever? He just casts meteor swarm or whatever, and it's over. And it's just because the power level is so amped up. It's like all of your civilizational structure, which we are used to living within the confines of that. That's not a limitation on any of these people. They're, when you're a level 20 wizard equivalent, you're a god in this world, basically. And because of the it's just because, like for example, my character was evil, but I wasn't like rampaging evil. I was, CD, mysterious, hidden evil. but yeah, I mean, definitely. So, for example, if the power level of the campaign was more like level 10 characters, let's say, they would have a lot more difficulty attacking a big city, even if no other major players or major factions were near that city, because that city has defenses, it has like an infrastructure there that was required for it to exist in the first place. But that's all irrelevant when the player characters are extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And there was
Go ahead.
There was a lot of talk in the back channels between me, Kuro, and Sirius about how to deal with this power level and city infrastructure at a 20th level, because like you said, Rule of Thule, at 10th level, an army still matters when you're sieging a city. At 20th level, I didn't need an army, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a 20th level plus wizard, I was the army, right? Like I was going around doing a lot as a single character, but you have to, in order to make armies relevant at that high of level, there has to be some other mechanic that allows you to say, hey, you can't just blow up the city or blow up the army. But we never got to that point of implementation of that. And I'm very much looking forward to the next phase where we are all much lower level and the armies do matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I came in with the army concept. You know, I'm just some guy, give me some soldiers and I'll just beat things up. And I paced my initial posts and my progress based on a very loose, we'll call it a loose axe version. Like within a week, I can get about this much done depending on the size of the village stuff, right? And that's why it took me so long to eventually get to Vargzul. And then I got kicked. But nonetheless, there was like something in there like, okay, well, if one guy can come and try to fight me mano a mano, that's one thing. But can he stop, you know, an army from doing this? What's the long-term harm that I can do? The greatest irony here being that, like, I'm ambition. I'm probably closest to lawful evil in that I'm going to be the tyrant. I want to conquer things, right? And I have a respect for that strength in others who want to. But yeah, like it's just even after I got put into the ring, or after I put myself in the ring, I still had my army just kind of moving around, slapping things, just because why not? You know, I'm still going to be a presence, and I kind of go in with the potential of, well, if there's ever a table game, maybe some players can get in there and actually do that. And then I started making stuff for that, but it kind of petered out. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to me, it's a question, at least in part, of incentives, right? Rampaging Evil. Like I was saying, Rampaging Evil had no incentive to not just destroy things. There was no value in the cities that they were destroying other than as a thing to blow up and watch the fire, and so that's like Spellgrave was saying, that's something that I am trying to address in the next phase of the campaign, which is starting Monday. If anybody wants to join, right? If anybody is interested, hit me up, send me a DM.
Come join my faction.
Yeah, there are now I guess the upshot is that the world in the last campaign ended, and a bunch of sky islands were thrown up into the air to save them from the destruction, and now the world is a bunch of nations, 7 nations among sky islands with airships in a post-apocalyptic world. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. But as I was saying about incentives, and regarding this next phase, is I'm trying to build onto 5e or extend it so that it would mechanically give value to civilization and having people who can, do things for you, like build ships for you or facilities, that could give you actual benefits in game. So that's what I'm working on next, and I'm hoping to solve that problem, at least give any rampaging evil forces something to think about, like a value proposition where they could say, I could blow up this city, or I could turn them into slaves and get stuff.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest solutions that just comes naturally to that is kind of like what we were talking about before. A level 20 character is stronger than an army. And because of that, there's no attrition. If the rampaging force destroys a town, like they lose a couple men, it doesn't matter, because what matters is the leader of the rampaging army, the level 20 character. And until that character is dead, the rampage will not stop. And so in removing the really, really high level characters, now there is a cost. If you go and destroy a village, well, you're spending army to do that. And you cannot continue to spend army into the next city, into the next city, into the next city. You will whittle yourself down naturally. And that aspect is completely non-existent when you're talking level 20 characters.
And one thing that I was going to start working up to before the end of the campaign started is I realized that as long as you had allies, your character could come back if you wanted him to. And but there is a spell that allows you to lock someone's character out, and they're not dead. They're just like in magical prison. And it became very apparent, like that was the only way to truly lock an evil character or any character out of the game.
Yeah, which there's a couple spells that allow you to do that. And what was actually circling back to like evil versus good type of thing, my last character, the Aeon, his like primary thing that I was going to have him do was his whole like shtick was like arcane, like balance, and he saw like reviving yourself as an imbalance in like magic. Like if you like died, you shouldn't come back to life. And so he was actually going to like kill like 90% of Team Good who had all revived themselves. But I just never got around to doing it because there was always this like the world is going to end threat. And it's like I don't have time to like I have infiltrated all the good guys things. I had like set up a bunch of traps for them already. Never had time to even deal with that. Due to having to deal with the world ending. And then I died saving the world. So as far as all the characters know, the Aeon was a good guy and he was their ally.
All right. Well, I gotta hop off, you guys. Pleasure talking to you all. And make sure you guys like and subscribe so you can hear part 2.
Yeah, serious. Answer that last question.
And thanks for jumping off Barrow so I could get a crack back in here.
From DLSD 25, the race class.
No, the Dundermoose one.
Oh,
I'm back. I can ask it now.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, what looking at and again, guys, this is a huge campaign. You need to go check out Rule of Thul's Substack on it because he does a good job not just telling you, and he doesn't tell you everything that happened, but he tells you a lot of what happened, and he did it like we're trying to do here now. Not just the story, but like lessons learned and how you can use this in your own game. But yeah, Serious DM, we've been talking to the players, we've been talking stories. Looking back on this groundbreaking campaign, what are some of the things that you learned? What is it that you wish you could share with DMs that want to try this style of play?
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts there. I might get a little long-winded, so bear with me here.
Yeah, don't worry if I yawn a couple times. It's like it's 11:30 here in my
So I think I proved to myself and everybody playing that 5e doesn't really support clubhouse play as written. And by clubhouse play, I mean like bro play, right? Like not only questing, but also domain play, wargaming, you know, Bronstein, PvP, the whole thing. And all with one-to-one time, right? So in order to run this campaign, I had to expand the rules to allow 5e to do that. I've had to take kind of these bare bones structures that 5e gave and build them out beyond what is in the books. And so we can do things like build factions and adjudicate orders and fight on a scale that's bigger than a small skirmish, you know. I had to add other subsystems to 5e. Most of them were taken from or inspired by 1e, actually, which we should all know by now kind of does it all out of the box. So yes, I realize that most people would just play 1e in my position. However, I wanted to
You want to
spread.
actually play with people, so you play 5e.
Yeah. Well, no, it's more than that. I wanted to spread the Clubhouse ethos far and wide because I truly believe that it is the best. I believe that there are many players like me who liked the idea of D&D, but felt that it was not delivering, felt that it's not delivering on some of its promises and that something's missing. And I think the best way to reach out to a lot of them is to publish rules that can be added onto 5e.
Yeah.
Because they're familiar with 5e, like almost everybody is. And I want to publish these extra rules to enable Clubhouse play so that they can experience the joy of legitimately good games.
Right on, man. So how close are you to having those rules in a format you can release?
That I can release, not that close, but I have.
Fair enough.
If you come and join my server, then you can see the state that they're in right now, because they're up in like just basically a bunch of rules posts in Discord. But it's that because 1E is such a heavy lift for newcomers, they need a reason to invest in it. So my project, which I call Clubhouse 5e, is bro outreach. I hope that people can play it. I hope that they can come to see the beauty of Clubhouse style play and realize that that they could maybe make the leap to 1E, right? That they can realize that it's worth it. And I want to make Clubhouse 5e free. I don't want to charge for it or anything like that. I just want to publish it and get it out there. Let's see, the last section of Umbros, actually, which our friend B-Dubs, he wrote and published for free, puts into words something that I've been feeling for a long time. And if I read it, he says, okay, so at the end, like the question, he asks the question, like, why am I doing this? Why am I publishing this? And so he says, Umbros is free because I love you. You are a child of God who deserves to enjoy the common good of excellent gaming. You and your gaming friends are in my prayer intentions by virtue of acquiring this work. Please help expand the common good of excellent gaming. Share Umbros and Bronstein-style gaming far and wide. Please consider baptism into the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. For when you submit to Rome, you need not Bronstein against the principalities and powers of this fallen world. For Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, has already won the final victory. Now, I'm not Catholic, but that's a beautiful sentiment. It's just beautiful, and I know in my heart that brotherly love expressed there, it permeates everything that the Broasar does. And the Broasar is it's the only group that loves you enough to tell you that you're playing wrong.
Yeah. Right on. All right, I don't think it gets any better than that as far as like a scene ending button to go out on. So Serious DM, thank you for running this. Thanks for agreeing to come on, bring in your boys. Thanks Rule of Thule, Kuro, Spellgrave, Angry Steak, and also Barrows Books for sharing this time with us. I know we only scratched the surface. We didn't even get hardly into, but we got some really important points, not just as far as like the crazy things that happen in the game, but the difference that playing this way can make in your game. So hopefully you're interested. Hopefully you're hungry. Lift some weights, read the Bible, play some good games, and we'll see you for the next one. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks.
See you guys.